Alright guys, Weekend Modder here with a quick review and actually going to test it out here a little bit of about a $15–16 soldering iron with an adjustable temperature from Amazon. A lot of people have been asking over a long time what soldering iron I use. My day-to-day driver is the Hakko FX88D that runs about $100. So given that $100 might be out of the price range of some people just looking to do an Xbox 360 mod, I thought I would pick up the very well rated on Amazon, less than $20 version of an iron and see how it checked out. So I'm going to set the console aside for a second and we're going to check this thing out and see if it's good enough to get the job done. So the first thing that I notice, or that I want to mention, is that it comes with a little supply of solder. So this would be especially good for somebody who's really, his first time is trying to mod his Xbox. It does say that it's 60/40 tin lead, which is the same mixture as the big roll of Kester solder that I buy. It's a little thicker than I would prefer. For Xbox 360 stuff, the thickness is a little smaller, I think, on the stuff that I use every day. But not visually, it really, you can't hardly tell, huh? It feels thinner in my hand than this stuff does. There's also a vacuum solder pump, so a solder sucker, as I guess it's called. So that's kind of neat that they include a solder sucker. There's a couple extra tips here. Big wedge tip. This could be cool if you were doing other types of jobs, but for our purposes we'll probably use one of the finer tips. But check this bad boy out. It looks like a razor blade. That is a huge soldering iron tip. So what's on there? Yeah, just a regular conical one. This tip's pretty large for what I'm used to, but it looks like it'd probably be alright for doing like the NAND header at least. Let's see if they include, you know what, I might just change this out right off the bat, because they include a wedge type. They also include a much finer tip, smaller tipped one. So I think we'll probably change that out right now. A little dinky metal stand, that's totally cool. No problem. Just so that you can keep the thing off your table, that sort of thing. Let's look at the dial on this. So it actually is labeled, if I can get it to focus, there we go. It's labeled in degrees Celsius. There we go. Dang, focus, there we go. So when I turn it on, I'm probably going to have it way up here towards about 400 Celsius, because I like to solder hot and fast, not hold the iron to any one place for very long. But that's pretty cool. Power cable feels alright. It doesn't feel super cheap or anything. Take the twisty tie off here. Let's change this tip. So is this the same thing as like the Hakko, where you lift this off? Yep. Tip slides off of the ceramic heater. New tip slides on, and the collar slides over that. Well, that's nice. So that means it would be interchangeable with all of the other Hakko tips that I have for my my big main station. So now we got a much finer point on there. I would definitely prefer that when working on the Xbox consoles. So let's do it to it. Let me pull this up and get rid of this little stuff off to the side that we're not going to use. We'll position this, and I'm going to plug it in real fast. Oh Lord. Alright, so that's one negative with the cord. I'm really dragging it around. But alright, here is a plug. Alright, so I just plugged it in. It's definitely lit up here. There's a little LED indicating. I wonder if the LED will turn another color or something when it reaches temperature. I'm curious. Let's see what happens. We'll give it a second. So it's already starting to get hot. Let's see if it'll melt some of the solder that came with it yet. Oh yeah, look at that. That must have heated up pretty fast because it's melting the solder already. It's pretty cool. So it heats up quick. It definitely goes in the plus column. So we'll tap off some of that solder. Man, I don't know if I really trust this stand to not. I guess if you look at it, it does have little screw holes here. So I think if this was the only stand that I had, I would totally put screws in that and it would probably be okay. It would hold. But I really don't want to end up with this thing in my lap. So since this is off, I'm just going to set it down. I'm going to put this in that holder because I don't trust it not to fly off the desk at me otherwise. Alright, so this is a Corona 16 megabyte console. So to do the NAND header in a Corona 16 megabyte console, first of all, point out how we know it's 16 megabyte. If you take a look at the reference image that I'll throw up on screen, you can see that the chip goes all the way to both sides and does touch the pins here. So we're not going to read this like a 4 gig via these pads. We can read this as a 16 megabyte console via this NAND header. And then I'll throw up the reference image that has the color-coded NANDX header to Corona 16 megabyte diagram, and you guys can follow along doing your own with that. So I'm using a fiberglass scratch pin right now to take that top little layer of coating off of the pads, and you can see now versus before they're much shinier, right? So the solder and stuff will stick better. Also of note, the soldering iron didn't come with any flux, so I am going to go ahead and apply some flux to the headers so that we get a nice good adhesion and we don't end up with cold solder joints. And then it does look like this console is missing R2C 5 and 6, so that would be these two jumpers that are missing here. So I'm going to actually bring back the scratch pin, the fiberglass scratch pin. I'm going to get those because they have a little bit of that same coating over them. And then I'm going to put a little dab of flux on those as well, because those will need to be bridged in order for this console to get signal to the E and F points. So back to this particular iron. The iron is definitely hot. I mean, I can feel it above it and stuff. So I've got the fine tip on it. I can see that the tip has like really turned a color and kind of looks like oxidized there. But it's cleaned up with a tip. Works pretty well with the copper mesh. So let's see about pre-tinning our spots. Ooh, this seems really hot. Normally when I hit this with my iron, it doesn't smoke quite so much. Might have to turn this down. Right now I've got it set halfway between 400 and 450, so it's 425. Well, you know what? I should use the solder that came with it. So here's the roll of solder came with the console. And I'll use that instead. Or not came with the console, came with the soldering iron, sorry. Yeah, this is really hot. This is melting super fast. So, this is so high that I'm actually going to turn this. Oh shit! I just burned myself a little bit. I'm definitely editing that out. So that one was so high that I'm turning it down to 350 here. And I'm going to give it a second. Oh, I'm not even on screen. You're watching me. Why don't you say something?
I don't know.
So this thing was set halfway between 450 and 425. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus closer. Here we go. Come on. All right, so this thing was set halfway between 420 or 400 and 450, making it 425. I just turned it down to 350 here because I'm really not sure if the temperature is off on this iron, but setting it that high was making it act different than what I'm used to. So let me see how this, so we're still getting quite a lot of smoke. Let's do these headers. So I'm working fast here, which is how I like to do it. Iron in, new solder, and then iron back out to let it solidify. It's working well, but it's this tip may actually be slightly too fine. The other one may have been a better choice because it's so fine. I feel like I'm stabbing the motherboard a little bit. So there we go. We got pretty decent soldering done with a $16 Amazon, $16. I started that part over again. So there we go. We got overall pretty decent soldering for a $16 Amazon special adjustable temperature soldering iron. Based on the one that I received here, I'd suggest a setting of about 300 Celsius, and then if you feel like you need it hotter, bump it up to about 350. That seems to be a pretty good temperature for the solder, the 6040 tin lead solder that it comes with. But definitely make sure that you pick up some flux to go with it. So overall, I would recommend, if your budget is that low and you're trying to keep this as cheap as possible, check out this Vastar soldering iron, link in the description, and consider purchasing it through my affiliate link there because it does give me a little bit of support when you do. Thanks.
You gonna stop recording?
Yeah, I can.